tonight, I assume. We have a number of elected officials here. I'm gonna let you mingle and talk to folks. That's really why we're doing this. And I think this is our 7th or 8th time doing it. We've done it every Wednesday for a couple months now, and it seems to be working out. And I would encourage you, come on back, bring friends, tell friends about it, encourage them to come. Because we're gonna do it for a while, because I think a lot of us have been feeling like, we know we're not the only ones out there that are loyal, patriotic Americans, and yet they're trying to make us feel like we're some sort of whatever. Anyway, so we have people here from Lake Villa Township, we have people here from around, and that's great. I've encouraged people to come and encourage that, because that's what we want to do, is build the Republican brand in Lake County. And we have a couple of new elected people that have come here, and it's great. So mingle, meet people. Mike Hr8 is here, and he's here to talk about the second. What else did I forget?
You forgot that I just wanted to tell everybody, thank you for coming. And we have some handouts. As we promised everybody that we would try to keep everybody informed on issues. We have defendinged.org. So I have some sheets on FOIA, on how to attain, your FOIAs. Anybody that is concerned about education, kids, which everybody should be very, very aware of what's going on with that, with critical race theory, the 1619 project.
Lincoln Project.
All of it. It's just stunning if you're not aware.
And some of the school board positions were open after the election. If that's something you're interested in, get in contact with your district office and see if you're interested in getting on the school board, because they're going to appoint somebody to those positions if they haven't already done it. I don't think they can do it until, I think they get their first, sometime in May is their starting date, and shortly after that they'll start the process of filling those seats.
If you have any questions or you want some guidance, feel free to call us. You're getting our email blast or messaging on Facebook. We can steer you in the right direction. So there's the information, out here. I have all that just sitting around on the table for resources and such. Also, did everybody get a ticket for the raffle for the Second Amendment flags? We have 2 door prizes. And I also have a Second Amendment booklet too. So I'm going to let Mike go start to speak, and then he'll do some questions. Or take questions, and we can just keep that going as long as you guys are answering. And I will then draw like somewhere in the middle of that.
My lovely wife Marcia has the jars. You put them in. Your tickets.
I'll shake it.
Shake, senora.
I didn't see when to catch. So that's it.
Everyone is sharing things. We don't want to spend a lot of time harping on any one thing, but we do want to keep you informed. And one of the things that I know Pervy Uncle Joe is doing is he wants to grab all the guns. And so we thought a Second Amendment discussion would be interesting, and I couldn't think of anybody better than Mike Hr8, who is the proprietor of, I don't know if that's the right word, but Red Dot Arms is Mike. And,
Yeah!
he's glad to help. Mary works with him, for him at Red Dot Arms, and
Lake Villa.
yeah, it's on 8th Street just south of
You want to hold my phone?
Town Line Road.
Lake Villa Business Park. And real quick, Gary Rabine is candidate for governor, and he is going to be here next Wednesday.
Whoa!
If anybody's interested in hearing what he's all about. He's a great guy. That as far as we know so far, we're really excited to have him come. So, come see if you can help, get a sign. We have some signs here if anybody wants some and knows about it.
I want another one.
So if you're here for our Republican gathering, please make sure your name gets on the list. Do you have the list now, Sherry?
Yes, it's
I
right
know
here.
it's been floating around. Anyway, Mike Ryu is here, and he's gonna talk about the Second Amendment and some of what's going on with that. And then, he said he's gonna keep it brief, but then you guys can ask questions, and I don't think that's gonna be brief. So,
Dave,
I'm
hold
the
the
owner of
phone.
Red Dot Arms.
Dave,
I was the
hold the phone,
owner
record it.
after being a
gotta go back.
teabagger, so I've been
Make
doing
sure
this
you
for a
record
long
it.
time. Opened up about 9 years ago, been watching the landscape, so I really follow what the laws are, what they are doing. It's my livelihood now. So I was a software engineer back then. So right now, what they're trying to propose, they proposed 2 laws. So we'll separate with what Sleepy Joe did a couple of weeks ago. Back in March, beginning of March, they passed 2 laws, or they passed 2 bills in the Congress. Hr8 and I think 1444. Yeah, Hr8 and 1444. And both of them are on background checks. The very first one is they've been talking about the gun show loophole. They talk about it forever. It is impossible. In the state of Illinois, there is no gun show loophole. We have to do background checks on people here. Our FOID cards, we're kind of a little different. So we're at the very extreme of having background checks done. Your FOID card, for those that have one, is a perpetuatory background check. Every day they run a background check on you. There's no reason that we don't go buy a gun and just leave out the same day. They ran a background check on you last night. And if you got a FOID card, it's one time. If you've got a concealed carry permit, they do it twice because we're so efficient in the state of Illinois. We'll just do a background check a second time in the same 24-hour period. So what they did in the House is they call it the bipartisan background check. It barely just passed by the margins of what we have in the House. So it just squeaked by in the House, and that's pretty much, they're trying to do background checks on people, person to person, and or at gun shows. Now, gun shows, very few people will go to a gun show and not be some kind of dealer at some point in time. Because if you start being at the gun show every weekend selling guns, the ATF are going to come knocking at the door and go, hey, you're kind of making money. We want you to be part of that system. Now, once you do you're a dealer at a gun show, you can't even do the background check at the gun show. So if I went to a gun show, sold you a gun on Sunday morning, you'd have to come to my shop on Monday to do the background check. So there are background checks anyways. That's at the federal level. So right now there's very few loopholes. The only time a gun show would be Joe Schmo has 5 guns and he wants to go sell his 5 guns and he's getting a table for that event, and that's the end of it. Any guy that's running any sophisticated gun show and the guy shows up every week, he's gonna tell him, hey dude, you're gonna get me in trouble. You're gonna have to get a license. We get guys, I've gotten guys where they're buying 70 logos. All of a sudden he's gonna be making guns. Well, guess what? We call the ATF and we go, hey, we got Joe Blow here and he's buying 70 lowers. We're just letting you know. Well, they call him and they go, dude, if you're gonna have 70 lowers, you're going to need a license. I don't want to get myself in trouble selling 70 lowers to some dude. So all of us that are somewhere in the system, we're not gonna get caught by doing something wrong. So the gun show loophole is a very small thing that'll happen. One individual is selling a gun to someone else. Now, the person-to-person stuff in the state of Illinois, if you sell it to a person, you need to do a background check on their FOID card. If you live in Kentucky, you can do it in the parking lot at the Piggly Wiggly. Do the background check. That's on you. That happens. That does happen. And you can see maybe that they could get support in the Senate for it. Well, they're not. So this has been passed since March 11th, and they can't get senators, and they've got the Senate. They've got the tie-breaking vote in the Senate for that, and you've got a whole bunch of blue senators right now that are going, yeah, I'm not going to put my name on that because they're going to piss off a lot of people. So right now, that's not going through, and it doesn't. And here's the thing: if they can't get this little thing going right now in the Senate, every other thing that Joe is thinking about isn't going to pass. Because this is a simple thing that they're trying to make sure that people are buying. I mean, and most of our senators are not very well versed on all of this. So it's very easy with the wording of stuff and how it feel-good law, and that's what it would be if we can get to a background check. Now, how many people are doing the various things with guns they're buying from their brother-in-laws, their cousins, It happens every day, and nobody's doing things. The guns that are being used in crimes aren't being bought with background checks and any of that. They're paid for illegally. Now, they're trying to stop a few of us from doing something wrong, and how they're going to really solve this is by Cook County prosecuting people that they catch. It's 2 years in a row that I get a report, that I see the report, and I never see the end of the year report. But the last 2 years, by the month of July, Cook County has confiscated 5,000 guns. Man, I wish I would sell that many guns in 5 months in a regular year. And that's how many guns that they confiscate from bad guys, and the bad guy just goes back out the next day, and he's not prosecuted on that. And then all that says is his buddy sees him the next day and knows that if he does something wrong with a stolen gun, nothing happens because Fox doesn't do anything with it. So we really don't need to put laws on us making it more difficult. We just got to prosecute the people that are doing something wrong. Let's talk about the 4473, the background check itself, the form. You can lie on that form. It's 2 years if you get caught lying. We got Hunter Biden. He's lied on it. It happens all the time. And none of the states do anything about it except Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania will go at 100% after the people that got caught lying on that form and will prosecute them. So in the state of Pennsylvania, they mean business. You lie on the gun form, they will go after you. Every other state does nothing, and our federal government does nothing about it. So it's just talk what it is. The second one that they are trying to pass right now, that was Hr8, the bipartisan background checks. The second one is they're trying to change the loop. It's called the Charleston loophole. And what happens is states that use the NICS system, and the NICS system is the background check system that's used that's held by the FBI. 12 states, Illinois being one of them, we don't use the NICS system per se. We use another system. Ours is called FTIP, and all it is we enter the stuff in FTIP. It does hit the NICS database, and to be in the NICS database, you have to have been a criminal at some point, done something wrong. A DUI from 20 years ago will flag you, and they'll have to go do some digging and looking at it. 12 states don't use the NICS system per se. We get an error. The error, if you had a DUI 20 years ago and it gets rejected off the bat, state police will look at your record and go, oh, it's a DUI 10 years ago, you can have a gun today, and it'll get passed. The Charleston loophole is if you have made a request and you filled out a 4473 and they haven't given you a green light within 3 days, you can get the gun. State of Illinois says no. If we have to dig, and we had a lady out in Lindenhurst, she didn't get her guns for about 4 months, and she had a ton of parking tickets. Just parking tickets were what was holding up her whole thing, because it was getting to the point that it was becoming a criminal issue. So they held it back, and finally she paid up all her tickets. They released her background check on her gun. It took 4 months. At the ATF, when they hit the, it's not the ATF actually, it's the FBI department that does it. When a NICS background check doesn't come in 3 days, they don't just say, oh well, big deal. No, they continue doing it for 33 days. They'll continue digging. And I went to, in September of 2018, I did a 2-day conference with the ATF and the FBI. And the guy said, on day 30, the entire floor stops doing everything on background checks, and they're all working on this case. He says, very seldom do they let a gun go past the 33 days. And he says it's complete chaos because they don't want the Charleston loophole. So for it to be a whole law and go out and pass it, it's such a minuscule issue that it never really happens. So it's just saber rattling. They're trying to put out laws because Sleepy Joe's first job after Sandy Hook on their second term, he was given a job of being, I forget they gave him a fancy term, and he was to go see how can we circumvent the Second Amendment and not be stopped by the Supreme Court. And he came back, and they couldn't. That's why they're packing the courts. They're trying to pack the courts now, because right now they know that at the way it sits right now, the Supreme Court would stop them from doing anything that they wanted to pass. That's why, if you really start looking. He didn't put 5 executive orders a couple of weeks ago. They were 5 executive actions. They were recommendations of what he'd like to see. I mean, and one of them is he hired some clown he hired a clown that is anti-gun, and he put him in charge of the ATF. That's like having a vegetarian in charge of grading our meat if it's safe to eat. You know what I mean? It's kind of the guy is in the wrong job. You should get a guy that likes guns and wants to really solve the problems, as opposed to a guy that knows nothing and just wants to stop us from having our guns. So they do want to take our guns away. They just don't know how to do it right now. They've got to change the Senate. They are the Supreme Court. They need to pack the court to get around the Second Amendment. So the packing the court, we really don't need to be worried about our guns right now. We gotta worry about 4 extra justices. Because as soon as we lose those, then all bets are off. What did he pass is executive actions. The first one, ghost guns. I can sell 80% lowers. Nobody wants them. Nobody's buying a gun. The bad guys are going to buy a gun that they stole out of your car because you're a concealed carry person that doesn't take it seriously and leave your gun in your car. They break into your car and they steal your gun, they sell it on the street, and that's how bad guys are getting guns. None of these bad guys are going to buy an 80% lower, mill it out, and make themselves a gun to go out and do something wrong. I mean, people are just stupid. We've had a kid out of Antioch that bought a gun on Friday, and he got, within 24 hours, the Antioch police are calling to see, did he really buy it just yesterday? So he didn't even make it 24 hours. Stupid people do stupid things. So it is what it is, but they're not gonna build a gun. They're not gonna take the time to build a gun. The second thing that they're trying to do, the red flag laws, they've been sweeping through a lot of states. 2 years ago, they passed a red flag law in the state of Illinois. State of Illinois, the red flag law is if you think a family member is in danger, if somebody, I mean, and we've had that. We've had a customer come in and say, hey, my buddy, my brother-in-law Chuck is very depressed lately, and we know he bought a gun from you, and we'd really like you not to give him his gun. So Chuck came in the next day, and we said, hey, Chuck, we talked to Bob yesterday. I think you need to straighten out things with Bob before you can come and get your gun. And he shook our hand, and we've never seen Chuck again. So Chuck didn't buy his gun. He didn't have to go to the government, get a red flag law, get some kind of court order. And that's what the red flag laws are. You have to convince a judge that they're not fit to get the gun. So again, if you live in a place where you've got a lot of blue judges, you're going to get a little bit more of these red flag laws. Now, the red flag law, most of them, the one in the state of Illinois sunsets after 6 months. After 6 months, boom, you get your guns back, you get your FOID card back, unless that family member, that friend, the police, whoever it is, petitions you again and gets a new court order. So that's kind of what the red flag law is. He has not put out something, he is suggesting we need one of these. They're going to have an administrative in investigating violent interventions. I have no idea what that even means, but I guarantee you it's pork in some bill that's going to go somewhere to someone else. So there's not much that you can do with that. What's that? Let me just do the other 2 things, and then they can ask questions about anything. One of his executive actions is getting they're going to make a report. They had the same report they did in 2002, 2023. They were trying to get a report for trafficking of guns. Again, trafficking of guns has nothing to do with what we do because we're just buying them legally. So they're trying to make, and you know what? I'd be interested in seeing that report, so it's not a bad thing that if they want to make a report of where bad guns are coming, fantastic, because I guarantee you, they're probably not coming from my gun shop. Because everybody's showing up with their FOID card, and I mean, very few people of my customers are doing things that are nefarious. So, and the last thing that they're trying to push is the arm brace, and that's I could see them going and getting something like that. The arm brace issue, if you take an AR-15 and you shorten the barrel on it and you take off the stock, it's a pistol. They came out that it's hard to hold because you got a buffer tube at the back, and it's very hard to hold again. So what they did is they made a little brace, which looks like a shortened stock, and the gun looks like what's called an SBR, a short barrel rifle. So in the state of Illinois, we can't have short barrel rifles. We can't have machine guns. We can't have silencers. They're called NFA items. They come out from the back going back to '68. Anything of that type, you have to have what's called a stamp. It costs you $200 Wisconsin, they can have all kinds of fun things. If you want one of those guns, pay an extra $200. Takes about a year to get the paperwork done, and then you can have one of these. If they take these guns, what he's suggesting is taking these guns with hand braces, the short handguns, and make them an FA item. Here in the state of Illinois would make them illegal. Everybody that has one would have to get rid of it. In the state of Wisconsin, per se, you would have to pay $200. Wait, I don't know what you do with the gun in the meantime, but it would take you about probably a year to be legal with it. The issue with the braces is he's throwing that to the ATF. I've been wanting one of these guns since the riots have started, and I'm kind of contemplating, do I want one in my personal name? I can have a machine gun in my car legally from being the shop owner, but Mike Rio can't have a machine gun, and I can't have an SBR. I've been waiting to see, do I want to drive around with an AR-15 in my car, spend $1,000, and they're going to make them illegal? It's twice now in the last 6 months that the ATF have brought it up for questioning. Late October, all the way till about a week before Christmas, was their last time that they were saber rattling on that, and the ATF just gave up on the whole issue. So I've been contemplating, I've been waiting to see, will we get more riots in the spring, and do I want to spend $1,000 to have a fancier gun in my car? So
The point with braces, and I'm going to come at it from a perspective of a physical therapist, because I am a physical therapist, a licensed physical therapist. The people that want braces are disabled. A lot of disabled veterans, they need braces because they can't hold devices, they can't use guns, and this will eliminate a lot of people that are former cops, former veterans, from using guns, that they need them to be able to shoot properly. That's what a point of a brace is. It's not to be able to make the gun more powerful, more deadly.
I make it more
But
powerful.
that's what they want to use a brace for, to be able to use certain guns more effectively, more efficiently. Otherwise, they can't stabilize the gun.
but in reality,
But some people will use it wrong, improperly.
in reality, everybody that I sell those to are not disabled, and they're planning to use them
Right.
as an
This is gonna
SBR.
eliminate-
And really, who
This
cares?
is going to eliminate them from being able to use guns, and that's why they want them. That's why I would want one for my AR, because of my shoulder limitations.
I just want one because
I want one
it's going
too.
to fit more compact in my truck. And who cares? It's the Second Amendment. Who cares what kind of gun? Because I can have one in a case and take it out after if I need it. So
But we shouldn't be eliminating parts, because parts themselves do not make a gun. A part is not going to make it a deadly weapon.
for your argument, very few people that are buying an AR-15 pistol with a brace are because they're disabled. We're just because they're cool as shit.
They are cool as
I mean,
shit.
that's what it is. I mean,
I
they're just
love my
cool.
AR. I love my AR. But I need it. I need it because of my disability.
And I'm tired of hearing the AR is an assault rifle.
It's not.
It's America's rifle. It's what it is. Everybody has one. It's America's rifle.
And it's
not
our
a-
constitutional
They-
right to have it.
Oh, yeah, I'm
They
quite aware
also
of it.
call it
Yeah,
as,
you are, but
they also call it a military weapon.
Yeah, everybody has
rifle,
one.
it is.
We all have one.
They also call it a military weapon. They were arguing about it last year or the year before. The Democrats and Republicans, they were arguing about it, saying it's a military weapon.
Oh,
AR-15.
You can call it whatever you want.
I know.
It is what it is. So those are what's going on in Washington. So their hands are tied right now.
Washington.
Their hands are tied. To do this next step, they're going to try to do everything to pack the court. That's their main thing to get to this. Because right now they can't even pass a law. They can't even get enough senators to pass some dumb law on trying to push people to do background checks. And it's it affects very few people. So
After the bill goes through House and Senate, then it gets to the president and he signs it. But doesn't it take 30 to 90 days for the executive order to take in effect?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it does. Look,
Say that again?
it takes 30 to 90 days for the executive order to take full effect.
But these aren't executive orders.
But
Joe Biden-
anything, law, executive order, anything, it takes 30 to 90 days for it to take full effect.
Well,
You can research this out on Google.
At this point in time, it's not even passed the Senate, and it
I know.
can't even get the votes for
I know.
these two laws that have passed in Congress. So they can't get these votes in the Senate. So that's kind of stalling. So for them to do stricter gun laws, they can't even get away with doing background checks. For them to take away our AR-15s
I know.
and pass the same law they did back in 2000 in the 90s.
But I
wasn't even living in this country back then.
I got a question. So let's go back to Parkland, Florida shooting, the V-Day massacre. Why didn't they do a background check on Nick Cruz when he bought his guns? That's my question.
I have no idea with what goes on with every single one of these situations. But the thing is most bad people.
The kid
aren't
was
doing it
mentally
bad. They're
ill.
not buying their guns legally. And you know what I mean? And I can go buy a gun legally today. If I bought a gun from my shop, I have to do a background check, just like you. And I would pass. That doesn't mean I'm not capable of doing something next week. If I snap and go crazy and go shoot someplace up, because I haven't done anything in the past, I'm still going to pass a background check. So you can't stop crazy. I mean, the Boston Marathon was done with a pressure cooker. Nobody boycotted Ace for selling pressure cookers. So, and you take the guns away, people are just going to do crazy stuff anyway.
What about all the Muslims in New York? What they did? No.
Wait,
They use the pressure cookers on the Jews and stuff. They always use the pressure cookers. What is it with these pressure cookers?
I'm not talking about that.
Let me ask you this: what is it with pressure cookers that they use?
They made a bomb out of it. That's all I know. But I mean, I told Sam Yingling I couldn't get a holster for if I want to retaliate, I couldn't get a holster for a pressure cooker. So it was just leave me with my gun to be able to defend myself, because defending myself with a pressure cooker, just like they tried to do something wrong, it wasn't very efficient.
What were the two HB laws that were coming up?
HR, one is 8, and that's the bipartisan background check, and the other one is HR 1445, and it is the one where they're trying to change that Charleston loophole of the ATF giving the gun away. They're getting granted after 3 days, but it's really 33 days.
I got an email today from Hr8 about HB 1091.
I looked all over, and I'm kind of pissed. I've been a member of theirs for a long time. They didn't talk about anything about the law. I tried to find out before because I knew somebody would ask the question. I think it's the old, from the last session, we had HB 1966, which was the boy card thing, because the rep that had proposed it was the same lady out of Addison. So, and I tried to talk to her, and she didn't want to talk to me a couple of years ago, so I said, hey, if you don't talk to me, I'm going to go down to your office. So they called the state police because I had threatened to go down there and I was going to do whatever. So they called Sam Yingling's office to make sure that I wasn't a nut job and got me cleared. And Sam called me and said, wow, they were going to send the state police because I wanted to ask a rep a simple question. Why are you doing this? It's just a stupid, I mean, it's just ridiculous. The whole law is ridiculous. So I don't know what that is. I'm presuming it's 1966 from last session.